Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting, and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call meeting to order and open the roll call.
Goodell.
Here.
Slater.
Here.
Rusher.
Here.
Hader.
Here. Then we need a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. We need a motion to approve the minutes of the August 19th, 2013 regular council meeting, the August 26th, 2013 special council meeting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Then we need a motion to approve the treasurer's monthly investment report.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. And we need a motion to approve the claims for August. Do we have any questions?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Under communications, anything from the public in attendance this evening? If not, we'll move on to new business. With us tonight, we have Daryl Beal. Take the podium up there, Daryl.
Okay.
Tell us kind of what's going on anyways.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a little bit of an update. Actually, your city manager gave me a homework assignment for different topics. I'll briefly discuss them. I'm really here more to listen than anything, but I'm a former teacher, and so when I'm given a homework assignment, you'll see that I really did it. As a matter of fact, I am a former teacher. I'm a former journalist, and manage our family-owned business, in retail business in downtown Fort Dodge. I've been in the Senate for 12 years. Next year will be my 12th year. I was first elected in 2002, and I inherited Humboldt and Pocahontas counties, or you might say you inherited me after the decennial census. There's reapportionment, and I lost the southern part of my Senate district, Greene County, and picked up Humboldt and Pocahontas counties. And so I've been knocking on doors so far on the south part of town, and I've really been very pleasantly surprised. I thought maybe having, since I'm your voice and advocate and senator, but you've never elected me, I thought maybe you'd feel like I was a little bit of a carpetbagger or something, but people have been very friendly and hospitable, and so I've felt very welcome, and so I appreciate that. I love Humboldt. I chair the Veterans Affairs Committee in the Iowa Senate. I'm vice chair of the Transportation Policy Committee. I'm vice chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Appropriations Committee. Vice chair moves back and forth between the House and the Senate of the International Relations Committee. And I also serve on Commerce, Education, and Agriculture committees. Until last year when I got on Ag, I had been vice chair of the Local Government Committee, so I still follow that pretty closely. I would like to just address very briefly, I have more details here if you have any questions or would like a little more precise information. But your city administrator gave me 4 homework assignments. First, on the nutrient reduction strategy and how that impacts on municipalities. The nutrient reduction management strategy that we passed will impact on point source discharge facilities, including municipalities and industrial sites. It'll have stricter limits on the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus that can be released into the waterways. We know that, and I think that was the administrator's concern about this, this obviously could lead to additional costs for cities when your permits are renewed and if you make upgrades to the facilities. I want you to know that I have supported legislation to give cities more lower cost options to improve your water quality, including the use of alternative technologies and treatment systems, and allowing sponsored projects in the watershed where nitrogen and phosphorus loads can be removed at a lower cost. I feel we need to support all efforts to reduce the amount of nitrogen in our waterways. This past session, we made a major commitment to improving the water quality by providing funding for projects in the watershed, which is where the largest share of nutrients in our waterways come from. I believe we need to support efforts to reduce nutrient loads, and we'll look for ways to help cities with their increased costs. That is one area that I pledge to you to work with you on that state policy that obviously has a local impact. The second thing that Mr. Burnett asked me to address, and that is the property tax legislation that we passed. I really felt the legislation we passed in 2012, the Senate version, was superior because it did two things. It reduced the commercial property tax. We all want that. I mean, the governor, both houses of the legislature, there was no question that it was necessary. And the good part about it, the positive aspect, is that it will make it easier to recruit and retain small business and industry in your community. My concern was and is what does that loss of revenue do to local municipalities? That's why I said the original plan, the one that we passed in the Senate, did two things. It just didn't merely shift the load from commercial to residential, and it held harmless local governments by fully funding any loss in revenue from commercial property taxes. As you know, the people of Iowa gave us divided government, and so the Senate just doesn't get our way around the Capitol. We have another branch of government. We have another branch of government that is controlled by the Republican governor, and we have a Republican House of Representatives and a Democratic Senate. And so we don't get everything we want. And as a matter of fact, in the closing days, literally in the closing days, maybe even hours of the legislature, we did reach agreement on several key points, including the commercial property tax. We also on mental health, on Medicaid expansion, and education reform. We were able to put aside our differences. None of us got exactly what we wanted, but I still have some concerns about the property tax. It's vitally important that the state gives the cities the ability to meet the demands that are being placed on them. As I said, this follows through that the commitments to fully fund the backfill in commercial property tax rollback. I want you to know that I had to plug my nose on this portion of it. It was a little more regressive in some areas than I would like. But again, we have divided government, and this is a compromise. But I want you to know that I'll make sure that we meet our make sure that these are funded, so it not force local governments to either just simply raise your residential taxpayers. That was one of the provisions that would not have happened with the Senate plan, nor to cut your vital services. And so the state government needs to make sure that local governments remain in a strong financial position, so like Humboldt can continue to grow your communities. Here's my fear, and this is why I will continue to monitor it. The state of Iowa has not always been the best partner with local governments. I know that. And so with the reduction in commercial property tax, we will make sure that it doesn't adversely affect you. I'm going to ask each one of you to please keep in touch with me. Your administrator does a good job, and the mayor keeps in touch. But I really would like to invite you, if you see something happening, I want to be on top of it before it gets away from us. Third thing your city administrator asked me to address is road funding. Since I was, well, actually before I was elected, I supported what I call a user's fee on gas. We've not had an increase on the gas tax since 1988, when gas was $1 a gallon. In other words, the tax that comes from that is like 1/3 of the cost of the gallon of gas that it was then. And also, as you know, we now have much more energy efficient cars. And I worked with Dave Jepkes, the Republican. He was one of my 2 representatives. He was the Republican chair of the House Transportation Committee. We had the votes in my caucus and his caucus to pass it several years ago. Then Governor Culver said, well, you guys can pass this, but I'm not going to sign it. Governor Branstad has kind of been on and off on this. And I have to tell you, I don't expect it to pass in 2014. It's an election year, and although I have some political cover that some of my colleagues don't have, most of my constituents want Highway 20 completed, and they know they're going to have to pay for it. But not, some of my colleagues don't have that luxury. And so I hate to tell you, but I doubt if it continues to be a pretty tough sell among Iowans and the governor. The governor is looking at some more creative solutions, maybe a portion of Iowa's sales tax revenue, raising registration fees and so forth, surplus gambling revenues. I'm not sure what he's going to be doing. He has asked DOT Director Paul Trombino to review it and make recommendations when we go back into session in January. This is the specter that awaits us, and that is by the year 2015, we'll have no money for new highway construction. It'll all go to maintaining what we already have. And so clearly we need to fix that. I was the author, one of 3 authors, I from Fort Dodge, a Democrat from Sioux City, and a Republican who represented Sac and Buena Vista and Ida counties. We passed the Access Iowa Highway Act. The DOT doesn't like a lot of direction, and understandably 50 different transportation plans. But we got this passed that directs the DOT to complete 4-lane highways between cities of 20,000 or more. Honestly, I was most concerned about from Fort Madison to Keokuk. Not really, that was the only one. Fort Dodge to Sioux City was our target. So that remains the law. It's on the industrial and commercial highway. We fixed 169. People in Pocahontas County feel that the state transportation dollars, especially on highways 3 and 4, and those of you who have driven 3, I attest to it, between Gilmore City and Pokey, they feel like the transportation dollars end where Pocahontas County starts, and so there are a lot of things, the farm to market roads, and Time 21 would give 20% of new revenue to cities for your streets, 20% for counties for roads and bridges, and 60% for 60% for the state. And I do support that, and with the Access Iowa Highway, the Time 21, it's on the 5-year plan, it's on the commercial and industrial. Everything is there in terms of language. What isn't there? Money. And without some sort of a revenue increase, by the year 2015, as I said, we'll have no money for new highway construction. Finally, I wanted to address TIF and tax incremental financing. I've been a strong supporter of that. It's one of the very few tools that small communities have in their economic development toolbox. House File, in 2012, House File 2460 drastically changed TIF and put some restrictions on local government. The Senate was able to stop those restrictive changes and require better reporting and stop piracy from one community to another. You may recall in Iowa City and Coralville, that wasn't the intent. Has there been abuse? Yes, there's been some abuse in TIF financing, but for the most part, it's worked pretty well. And in the House Ways and Means Committee, House File 647 would have made TIF bonds count against your constitutional and statutory debt limits. The full House did not pass that. The Legislative Tax Expenditure Committee is slated to review this matter this fall and to report when in January. TIF is one of 5 tax credits that are being reviewed by this committee. And so the data collection required by House File 2460 is still new. It's important to look at the data that is required by law before the legislature acts to change it again. So I really do want to hear from you on this and any number of matters. Just in closing, I work for you, you're my bosses. We work for the same people. And I would like, I handed these out to many of you. My wife says, don't say this, somebody's going to believe you, but this is good for one free vote of your choice in the United States. And of course now I have speed dialing with the governor, and so this, if you get caught speeding, just say Senator Beal said this will keep you out of jail. Don't you dare do that. But seriously and sincerely, I do have all my contact information here. I do monitor my legislative email account all the time. And so and I've talked to Daryl, we solved almost all the world's problems, the 2 Daryls before the meeting started. I chair the Veterans Affairs Committee. I did have a town hall meeting on education, on veterans and economic development here. So I know you wear different hats. I guess that's what I'm saying. You wear a business hat, you wear the municipal hat and so forth. So on any issue, please keep in touch. I do have one other thing that I wanted to mention, just to ask for your input. I have been appointed to an interim study committee on off-road vehicles, all-terrain vehicles. Worked very hard to get that $25 that was voluntarily assessed ATV and snowmobilers. Before I was there, the legislature saw a couple million. Oh, let's grab onto this. They scooped the money, even though it was never state funds. I worked for 4 or 5 years to get that back to the rightful owners, and that's when they built the ATV park. With my interest and background, I am on an ATV interim study committee, so I would like your recommendations. The County Board of Supervisors in Webster just passed an ATV ordinance that they can drive on gravel roads. Different smaller communities have said, can we have golf carts, driving on city streets? I think I don't have any preconceived notion on what we ought to do, but I would like to hear from you your views of what the law is. Typically on school matters or whatever, I believe in local control, and I think we could pass some kind of a overall legislation, but to allow local decision makers to make those decisions. That would, if I have a bias going into this.